drug-related cases in the Philippines has always been a perennial problem. According to the Dangerous Drugs Board, there are around 2 million drug users in the country. Cannabis, one of the most common breed of marijuana, is the second most commonly used and abused drugs in the Philippines. It is classified by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration as a Schedule I substance, which means marijuana is one of the most dangerous classes of drugs. But recently, the global climate of acceptance tilts towards recognition of the need for marijuana in medical and recreational purposes. In 2012, marijuana has been legalized for recreational use in Colorado and Washington state. Some officials are also pushing for its legalization in Mexico and other parts of the U.S. Uruguay became the first country to legalize growing, selling, and smoking marijuana, and just recently Colorado became the world's first state to allow selling weed to residents and non-residents. In the Philippines, issues of health, legality, and social implications are the major focal points of the debate about marijuana.
Welcome to Opposing Views, a hard, straightforward discussion of today's most pressing issues. Marijuana is a prohibited substance under the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002. In 2013, the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, or PDEA, seized 550 million pesos worth of marijuana. But like in Colorado and Uruguay that recognize the need to legalize marijuana, should the Philippines follow? So our question is, should the planting and usage of marijuana be legalized in the country? Good evening, I'm Rod Nepomuceno, and this is Opposing Views. Joining us tonight in our discussion is Chuck Manansala, founder of the Medical Cannabis Research Center, also a founding member of the Philippine Cannabis Compassion Society and a supporter of the Philippine Moms for Marijuana. Good evening, Chuck.
Good evening. Good evening, Rod.
Now, give us your, quickly, in 30 seconds, just give us your position with regards to marijuana.
Well, marijuana is medicine, a very powerful and effective medicine, and it should be legalized as medicine in the Philippines under tight regulations by the government. That's my stand.
All right. With us also is Director Wilkins Villanueva from the Preventive Education and Community Involvement Service of the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, or PDEA. Good evening, Wilkins.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, your quick thoughts regarding legalizing marijuana.
Of course, PDEA, PDEA is on the strong ground that cannabis or marijuana is still considered as dangerous drugs under the Republic Act 9165.
Right.
Or Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002.
All right.
So no legalization.
No. All right. All right. So let's start off the discussion. Now, marijuana is currently classified by the Drug Enforcement Administration as a Schedule I. Schedule I substance, which means the most dangerous class of drugs with a high potential for abuse and potentially severe psychological and physical dependence. Now, can you elaborate on this further, and then Chuck, I'll get your thoughts on this.
Okay. Yeah, of course, it's considered and placed under Schedule I because it's included in all substances that is prohibited, like heroin, cocaine.
When you say Schedule I, it means the most dangerous, the most potent.
Most dangerous.
All right.
And marijuana is still there because it's dangerous.
Is this based on all the studies you've conducted, scientific studies?
There are scientific research and surveys, internal surveys conducted by the Philippine government, especially the Dangerous Drugs Board, that marijuana is dangerous and it's addictive. So it's really should be included in Schedule I.
All right, Chuck, it's in Schedule I, considered dangerous. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Schedule I means that it has no accepted medicinal value, that it has high potential for abuse, and that you cannot use it even under medical supervision. Let's take the 3 points.
The 3 points, one by one.
Cocaine, by the way, with due respect to Director Wilkins, it's not Schedule I, it's Schedule II.
Okay.
So cocaine has recognized the medicinal value.
Values, all right.
So heroin and ecstasy and LSD and PCP is under Schedule 1. First, that it has no medicinal value. It is not true. The classification under Schedule 1 was determined by the United Nations in the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs, first formulated in 1961.
96.
During that time, the level and the scope of knowledge on marijuana was very, very low. And it was demonized by the Americans under Harry Slinger back in the 1930s without any proof. It was simply an approach that was based on certain personal observations. So any research on the internet and the history of marijuana will show that all formal studies recommended the use of marijuana for medicine, but it was repeatedly denied by authorities. In the Philippines, I do not know of any published medical or scientific study that proves the danger of marijuana. If at all, the existing studies on marijuana, 19,000 of them, 19,000 studies, prove that marijuana has potential medicinal value. And in some cases, it's the only medicine that probably works, like in the case of Dravet syndrome, which is a very serious disease among children that results in epilepsy. The issue of whether it has high potential of abuse is this. In studies conducted, the most addictive substance is nicotine. Everybody who smokes knows that, how hard it is to get away from nicotine. I smoked for so many years, and I was smoking 2 packs a day, and it took me a very, very long time and very hard time just to get out of nicotine. So next is heroin, then ecstasy, then coffee. Below that is marijuana. So coffee is more addictive than marijuana. Paano yun? So if we drink coffee, should it be illegal? Some people are drinking 8 mugs of coffee. I used to drink 8 mugs. Now I'm down to 2 cups of coffee.
So you address
paano
2 points, the medicinal value and the addictive properties.
And then third is that if we can work with PDEA and especially the Dangerous Drugs Board, then we can come up with certain regulations that can guide our medical profession and our doctors on how to properly administer this drug and what is the proper dosage, what is the proper timing, and what is the proper strain of the plant. There are a lot of things to study. We cannot jump into it and say, bukas, gawin na natin ito legal. No.
Okay.
We need to study it.
All right. So, Chuck, those are the 3 points. Director Wilkins, let's tackle what Chuck mentioned first, no? The medicinal value. Do you submit, or does the PDEA at least now see all of these studies that claim that there is a medicinal value for marijuana?
First of all, the United Nations Convention of 1961, the Single Convention on Narcotics Drugs, it prohibits the manufacture and use of dangerous drugs under everything that's included in the convention, except for medicine and scientific research. So that's what they prohibit.
Okay.
And legalization of all of them, the whole thing, legalizing all of them is prohibited.
Yes.
So it's only for medicinal and scientific research.
But our current laws basically prevent you from even possessing, di ba? Possessing marijuana.
As far as the Philippines is concerned, because there's no scientific research yet. There's nothing.
No accepted.
Yeah,
scientific
because
research.
there's no scientific research, there's no medical research on marijuana. So how can we accept it
In the Philippines? you
in the
mean?
Philippines?
Okay.
So it's still.
Do you not take recognizance, or do you not recognize some of the international studies that have come out?
We don't, because we don't have research. We don't have medical research on marijuana in the Philippines, and we don't have scientific research on marijuana in the Philippines. So it's included as a dangerous drugs under Republic.
Chuck, what are your thoughts on that, and the fact that they don't recognize, I mean, PDEA at least, doesn't recognize the international studies that have come out? Do you think there's enough international study for them to at least accept at least these studies?
Yes,
Consider these studies?
yes. Unlike people, we are restricted by boundaries. Knowledge knows no boundary. Go to the internet, look for an application called Google and type. You will find all sorts of studies on this.
But then I can type Google and there's so many things,
Right.
too many things
So,
in Google. No?
the existing studies already were the basis for, we are not existing in a vacuum. Uruguay already made it legal. Colorado and Washington has made it legal. And in the Philippines, it must be studied already.
Yeah.
Addressed to Director Wilkins. We cannot do study in the Philippines because it's Schedule 1. So how can you prove something when it is not allowed for you to experiment on
possess
it?
even experiment.
So what we can do is this. We will petition the Dangerous Drugs Board and we will invoke Section 16 of the Comprehensive Drug Rules of 2002, which states that medical laboratories and research center can, under their supervision, conduct medical research and experiments. And we will work for the study of current pharmaceutical preparations. For example, whether Marinol will be good. Marinol is an FDA-approved drug, which is a synthesized form of tetrahydrocannabinol, and Sativex, which is an extract of marijuana, which is already submitted. I think we were informed that Sativex was already submitted to the FDA, local FDA. And another area is that we study the medicinal value, the proper dosage, the cultivation, and the proper strain of marijuana as herbal medicine.
All right.
Marijuana as herbal medicine has 5,000 years of
history.
Marijuana has been illegal for only 70 years. For 5,000 years, it is legal.
Okay. Chuck, I'll interrupt you at that point. No? So let's focus on that. No, you said medicinal. From a health perspective, do you think that marijuana has some health benefit? Is it bad for the health? Would you know for a fact that it is indeed, without any doubt, bad for the health?
First of all, I submit with Sir Chuck about the need for research. And that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it here. You petition the board, Dangerous Drugs Board, for a research. Even though it's included as dangerous drugs, there's so many dangerous drugs that's included as dangerous but controlled. That you have to have a license. So why did they have a license? Because they have the study. So what we need is petition the board in order for us to study. And not just Google in the internet, because when you Google in the internet, you have the pros and you have the cons.
Yes,
Same thing. And you will end up confused.
But let me go back to my question though. Is it definitive, at least now, it being included in Schedule 1, that's at least for now, the PDEA's position is this is bad for the health?
Yeah, we still cannot say about any benefits derived from marijuana because in the Philippines we don't have the study. So if we don't have the study, we cannot implement it.
So okay, now Chuck, removing the legality part of it, is marijuana bad for the health or good for the health or neutral? It depends on the dose.
Well, let me put it this way. Anything in excess is bad for the health.
Just
Eat
like coffee.
too much food, you end up with diabetes. Too much sugar, too much alcohol, too much tobacco. Too much marijuana to the tune of 40,000 joints in one day. 40,000 joints can be a lethal overdose. Can be. It's potential.
40,000.
40,000.
I need 40,000
so
to
that
be
is
legal
impossible.
overdose. Okay, yeah.
The thing about marijuana is that there is no known lethal overdose on marijuana. There is no reported case of someone dying because of marijuana. Now, how many people have died because of alcohol? How many people have died directly related to tobacco?
Yeah.
How many people have died directly related to non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs? Ang dami nun. There are many. So the reason being this, there is science behind it. The scientists have discovered that we have an endocannabinoid system. In fact, all animals have that, even a sea slug.
Yeah.
The thing is, the endocannabinoid system regulates nutrition intake, it regulates the digestive system, it regulates metabolism and storage. When we get sick, when we are overwhelmed by pathogens or by environmental toxins, we need help.
Yeah.
The help will come in the form of marijuana, which is the only plant that has cannabinoids that locks into the two receptors in the body that is called the CB1 and CB2 receptor.
All right.
Now, this needs further investigation and further study, and
Yeah.
we have started working with some doctors in the
To do the research.
UP College of Medicine,
Yeah.
and we are organizing very soon a conference or a symposium. We are going to invite PIDEA and the Dangerous Drugs Board, and with the help of some legislators, to have an open forum so we can discuss what we can do to immediately start the research and experimentation
Sorry, Chuck,
on this.
I need to cut in. We need to take a short break. Meanwhile, join the discussions online. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/SolarOpposingViews. Follow us also on Twitter at opposing_views. Use the hashtag OVMarijuana. We'll be right back. Please don't go away.
Yung marijuana para sa akin dahil ito'y pinagbabawal na gamot po.
Para sa akin, hindi siguro. Kasi nung panahon, bawal talaga yan. Dapat hindi na talaga.
Para sa akin okay lang kasi sa ibang bansa ginagamit siyang gamot.
Depende kasi yan eh. Kung gagamitin sa maganda, pabor ako. Pero pag yung ano naman, sobra, hindi.
Well, I am a religion teacher. So, syempre sana wag na lang.
Pabor po. Kasi nakakagamot siya ng mga ibang sakit.
Not favor kasi mas madami pong mga tambay dyan na walang trabaho dahil mas inuuna po nila ang pagmamarijuana.
Kasi syempre makakasama pa rin yan eh, lalo na sa mga kabataan.
Kapag niligal nila kasi, yung maraming nag-aabuso rin.
Welcome back. You're still watching Opposing Views. We have with us Chuck Manansala and Director Wilkins Villanueva. Our debate for tonight is, should the planting and usage of marijuana be legalized in the country? Now, before we took a break, Chuck, you made the point that there's no such thing as lethal overdose in marijuana, and I'll throw the question now to Director Wilkins. The point there is that for marijuana at least, you can't have legal overdose. So is that a valid argument in legalizing marijuana?
Yeah, because most of the research conducted is more on tobacco and alcohol. But marijuana still remains as a mystery. So, but research, again, we don't have research in the Philippines, research abroad, states that 3 joints of marijuana is equivalent to 20 sticks of cigarettes.
In terms of?
In terms of piece by piece.
In
3
terms
joints.
of addiction or in terms of impairment? Of
Tar intake
Tar
and carcinogen intake. 3 joints of marijuana is equivalent to 20
and
cigarettes.
there's research on that?
There's research again in the internet again.
Okay, all right.
Another
But
thing,
no Philippine research?
because we don't have
we
it.
don't have. Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's why sinasabi ko dito, if you do the research, there's so many pros and cons. And at the end of the day, you will end up confused.
There's no definitive, I guess,
Against
research.
research.
On it. All right.
Again, study says that about 50% marijuana carcinogen intake is about 50% more than tobacco. Which is real because when you puff marijuana, you will puff a deeper smoke. Unlike cigarette, you just smoke and that's it. When you puff marijuana, you will puff deeper and control your breath for few seconds to have the great impact for marijuana.
Okay.
And holding your breath, naandun lahat yung tar, naandun yung carcinogen. So it's more...
And no filter.
Yeah, no filter at all. That's why when you can see marijuana users, yellow na yung ano nila, finger nila eh. Because naandun lahat yung tar.
It goes there.
Unlike in cigarette, it's filtered in the filter. So marijuana diretso.
All right. Okay, so Chuck, let's talk about the alleged medical benefits. I say alleged because obviously it's still under debate, and of course these supposed medical benefits are the reasons why you're going for the legalization. No? Can marijuana indeed cure certain illnesses? Are there case studies abroad enough to at least indicate that it's a definite yes?
Well, let me put it this way. First, let me clarify when I said go to Google and the internet. When I say go to Google and internet, you don't look at just about anybody there talking about any other thing. I'm talking about peer-reviewed medical journals. So look at the science. The science states this. In Spain, which was the first known recorded clinical study that is validated, they injected directly to brain tumor the extracts from marijuana. The brain tumor was reduced. There is an action created because, as I mentioned, of the endocannabinoid system, but specifically two components, which delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol and cannabidiol. The case of cannabidiol is very exciting. Cannabidiol has no psychoactive effects. Wala siyang high. Hindi siya katulad ng THC. Doon sa case ng smoking, like sa tobacco, that's true. Marijuana contains tar, similar to tobacco. But the study recently done published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, which is, you can find it, it's published, and it states that casual or intermittent use of marijuana does not pose any serious issue on the lungs. In fact, there is a slight decrease in the risk of lung cancer, for example, because cannabidiol modulates and regulates the action of THC and the tar. Now, there is a way to smoke marijuana without the tar. That's called using vaporization. You use vapor. Now, whether it's a cure. There is a very popular documentary in the internet that you can find. This is a documentary by Dr. Sanjay Gupta,
Of CNN.
the medical correspondent of CNN, titled Weeds. I invite everyone to look into this and make your own decision. That is why the Philippine Moms for Marijuana and all our associates, the mothers with children with seizure, saw that, and when they saw that, medyo nagulat sila because there is a case of Charlotte Fiji who was suffering 300 seizures a week. 300 seizures a week. Lahat ng gamot ginamit na nila. Walang nangyari. It was not controlled. So they were forced to look into marijuana because there was an earlier case, the case of Jason and his kid, na na-regulate, yung na-control yung seizure. Charlotte, after using marijuana over a period of time, from 300 seizures a week, it is down to 1 to 2 a month. 1 to 2 a month. If you are a mother, you have a child, nagsisisure sa harapan mo araw-araw. Yung mga kasama ko rito, may kasamang isang anak, makikita mo, nagsisisure. Hahanap ka. You will always look for a way to find a cure.
Alright.
Also, we have moms na merong ang anak nila, they have brain tumor. Walang gamot sa cancer eh. But marijuana shows a lot of potential as a cancer treatment and possibly, in the case of skin cancer, a cancer cure.
Okay, Chuck, we'll hold you that.
Of course.
Yeah,
Ganun din eh.
yeah,
Ganun din
Director
yung ano
Wilkins.
niya.
Yeah.
The
Chuck, sorry, Director Wilkins, you've been saying that parang it has to be research done here, but do you not take legal, do you not recognize, I mean, like American medical journals, right?
Yeah.
Do you not, I mean, in law, I know they should have some kind of influence or impact in, let's say, when you're discussing a particular legal point and it's already an accepted policy or principle in the U.S. In this case, it's a medical study that's conducted by the American Medical Association. Do you not take cognizance of that or at least consider that as a possible maybe impetus to conduct your own research?
That can also be considered. But, you know, in the U.S., even the American Food and Drug Administration found that there's no
Definitive.
sufficient clinical research on the actual benefit of marijuana.
Okay.
No, they consider this as there's no sufficient. It's still insufficient.
Yeah.
Okay. The dilemma kasi is we only see marijuana as smokable. There, for medical marijuana, there are so many kinds of dispensation.
Oral and maybe injection.
That's because nga, under the United Convention, a single convention on sa narcotics drugs in 1961, they exempted the production for medical. That's for medical and scientific research. So, wala tayong problema doon.
So since we're a signatory in that convention, should we not allow...
That is a treaty actually.
Yeah.
What Uruguay has done is a violation of treaty. Kasi signatory tayong lahat doon.
Yeah, since we're a signatory to that, and if it allows medicinal use, should we now then allow, I mean, should we now accede to Chuck's position that it is
With
allowed?
proper, we have the proper process for that.
All right, okay. So
Process
your
tayo.
question is more process.
For medical and scientific.
And the process being, that has
Process
to be...
being is that you have to apply for the Dangerous Drugs Board and the Philippine Food and Drug Administration for the conduct of research. Kasi as of now, just possession of marijuana
Correct, yeah.
is illegal.
I know, yes.
So talagang paano ka magre-research kung illegal?
Yes.
So you have to have an exemption. So Dangerous Drugs Board can give that.
Okay. Now, Chuck, have you I
But
guess
not
initiated
for,
that?
again, but not for recreational. Because that's not included in the 1961 single convention on
Now we're talking
narcotics
about
drugs.
the curative, possible curative effects of marijuana, and I just wanted to ask if later on we need to take a short break, but after the break we'll talk about, perhaps discuss if is marijuana the best option in terms of curing certain illnesses. So we'll need to take a short break. More on the issue of legalizing marijuana when we come back. You're watching Opposing Views. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching Opposing Views on the Solar News Channel. Our guests, Chuck Manansala, founder of the Medical Cannabis Research Center and Director, Wilkins Villanueva of the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, or PDEA. Our question, should the planting and usage of marijuana be legalized in the country? Now, we were talking about the alleged medicinal benefits of marijuana, and I guess my question is, there seems to be at least some case studies that show that there's a positive effect in terms of marijuana being a medicine, a use as medicine. Now, my question is, Chuck, considering that there's so much controversy surrounding marijuana, is this our best option medicine? Meaning, if there's an alternative naman, why do we have to insist that marijuana should be legalized? Considering the controversy surrounding the usage of marijuana, maybe there are other options, right?
There are always other options, but in certain cases, marijuana is the best option. For example, in the case of patients suffering from cancer who are prescribed chemotherapy, the only way you can control the nausea and vomiting for some people, it is only marijuana that controls it. All right. In the case of epilepsy, it is also the case. Now, in the case of epilepsy for children, the method is by ingesting an oil. You process the marijuana plant into an oil, and the most popular one is called Rick Simpson's oil, but there are a lot of variants, and then you give this to the children. And this was done in Colorado. In fact, there is already a strain called Charlotte's Web. Marijuana is also indicated for glaucoma, to reduce the intraocular pressure on the eyes. And also, it is recognized already as an effective pain management substance. Pain, especially those suffering from multiple sclerosis, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, marijuana may prove to be a good substitute to existing drugs that have high potential for further danger. Like me, I suffer from fibromyalgia. My interest in marijuana is personal because it might prove to be something that can help me manage my pain without the danger of my kidney being destroyed by my favorite drugs. I wouldn't want to mention it, but pag hindi na kaya ng katawan ko, I take drugs. But I cannot take that long term because I also have an impaired liver.
Right.
The only safe medicine that I know is marijuana. In fact, marijuana has a very high safety level. It is the safest drug compared to the other, yung mga opiates natin na, na allowed.
Okay.
Opiates, merong lethal overdose. Marijuana, no lethal overdose.
Okay. Now, all right. I'd like to shift now, shift gears a bit. We've been talking about marijuana and its medicinal, I guess, the argument about its medicinal value. I'd like now to talk about a particular trend that's happening in the world, no? Particularly in Colorado, in Uruguay, where marijuana has now become legalized, not just medicinally, but now I think also for recreational purposes. No? And I kind of know what you're what you're thinking because you're smiling at me. Director Wilkins, your thoughts on this? Do you think that, in other words, we're taking it one step further, no? Kanina, medicinal purposes. Do you think that if we regulate it correctly, in the same way that the government regulates alcohol and also regulates tobacco, which we know have some dangers in the health or cause a lot of problems in the health, do you think that at some point it's possible that marijuana will be legalized here recreationally?
Of course, first of all, recreational marijuana is not included as exemption in the United Nations, 1961 United Nations Single Convention on narcotic drugs.
So you're saying Colorado and Uruguay already violated
They
the treaty?
violated the treaty already. So how can you legalize something that you have signed and you are binded to adhere to the provisions of the treaty? So
Okay.
dapat,
At least, okay, so from a legal standpoint,
legal standpoint, wala na tayo, tapos na tayo eh.
Assuming
it's legal sa ano.
it's allowed. Let's say that the treaty provides exemption.
Okay,
Let's say
okay. Assuming that it's also part as an exemption. Number one, the Dangerous Drugs Board has been conducting research, local research on the different forms of drugs and the volume of drug affectation, or shall we say, drug addiction. Okay, yearly they have the yearly research on center-based research. Ibig sabihin nito, nasa treatment and rehabilitation. This does not include those who were apprehended by PIDEA and other law enforcement agencies. So what's the result? All throughout the period, marijuana is the second most drug use of choice by those who were apprehended. Sa center-based research ng Dangerous Drugs Board, lumalabas dito for the past 3 years, marijuana addiction is the second. It represents 34% of the total inmates or total patients, outpatient and inpatient, ng lahat ng rehabilitation centers.
What's the number one? Just curious.
Number one is methamphetamine, of course.
Right.
They represent about 75% of the drug addiction. Number two, you can imagine 75 plus 34, halos 100%.
100%, okay.
So these two drugs, they represented the most drug of abuse and part of those who were being treated sa centers natin.
Okay. So removing the treaty, purely on the stats on the rehab centers.
It's addictive.
It's addictive. All right. Okay, Chuck. Your turn.
It's
Your thoughts
quite
on this?
unusual that methamphetamine or amphetamine is a Schedule 2 drug, not Schedule 1. Marijuana with known medicinal value is Schedule 1. So that's an anomaly. Now, the question of recreational use, let me put it as a matter of principle. I believe in the principle of the sovereignty of the human body. What does it mean? That only an individual can determine what he will put into his body, apply, smoke, ingest. Government and society cannot legislate what you can and cannot ingest, especially in the case of marijuana, which is medicine. It is now presently, from the point of view of science, from the point of view of legality, and morally especially, it is wrong to continue placing marijuana under Schedule 1 classification. Let me appeal to everyone. Instead of treating marijuana as a crime, let us treat it as a health issue. So when you treat it as a crime, you are focused on prosecution, when you treat it as a health issue, you focus on regulation. Let us create regulation based on science, based on compassion, based on health, and especially based on human right. It is our right to seek the best remedy for ourselves and for our families.
All right. Taking off from that, no, is there any possibility that the PIDEA will reconsider its classification from Schedule, given all of these new studies, not legalizing it, but more of at least reclassifying it, given the arguments raised by Chuck?
It will still be determined by the whole convention of the United Nations.
Yeah. So
Because
that's still
sila yung naglagay doon sa,
okay,
sa substance.
alright. Which is based in 1961.
1961 as amended in 1972.
And
Pero
coincidentally,
tayo, hindi tayo pwedeng maglagay.
Can I
Sure, Chuck.
question that? I can understand Director Wilkins, his adherence to the law. But remember that there is the principle of sovereignty of a nation. The United Nations does not exercise sovereignty over us. The Treaty of the United Nations can only be valid insofar as our Senate approves it. We can, in fact, in the law, look at the Dangerous Drugs Act. It is explicitly stated that the Dangerous Drugs Board has the power to reclassify. It does not say change the law. It does not
reclassify.
change,
That's just my argument.
remove the treaty. It simply states, a textual reading of the section states that the Dangerous Drugs Board is authorized to reclassify substances based on research.
Yeah.
So therefore, we have some
I
legislators.
guess the qualifying point there is based on research, and I think that's what they're asking
Correct.
for,
And
right?
the legislation to reclassify from Schedule 1 to the proper schedule based on current knowledge is determined by science and research. And there are already some legislators who are supportive of this.
All right.
I probably have to mention this. Congressman Rod Albano recently came out just yesterday stating that he will file a bill on this issue for medical marijuana. Earlier, Senator J.V. Ejercito has been recorded on air saying that he will support any initiative for medical marijuana. Senator Grace Poe has also stated that if there will be certain actions on this, then she will support it. And in fact, the Dangerous Drugs Board is very supportive of our effort to really bring this up in the open, conduct research and conduct experimentation. And Director Wilkins, I'm very happy that he said that it is allowed, that we can petition the board, and we will do that very
All right.
soon.
Now, let's take a... yeah.
Correct.
I wanted to classify, want to qualify that as well, for medical marijuana.
It's under the United Nations
Yeah.
Convention.
So wait, hold on. I'll take this even 2 steps further.
Okay.
We talked about medicinal, recreational. All right. Let's talk about legalization. You're talking about legislators, and let's talk about the legalization of marijuana. Assuming it does pass, it becomes legalized, and I just want your opinion and thoughts on this. Do you think by legalizing something, do you think that it will possibly increase the addiction, the chance of addiction? And I'll ask that from you, Chuck. No? So I'll ask Director Wilkins, do you think that it will, by legalizing something, alam mo naman minsan, kung ano yung bawal, yung pang hinahabol minsan eh. When legalize na, do you think there'll be less or possibly the same amount of, same level of addiction?
Example, pasok tayo sa barangay. School and barangay. Once you legalize, you're opening the gate eh. You're opening the gate of marijuana. That marijuana is there. Parang ano lang yan, parang sa market eh. You can have access.
Parang cigarettes. Yeah.
Just like rugby or contact cement.
Yeah.
It's in the market. So, accessibility is too easy. For sabi nga ni Sir Chuck, private, it's personal. Okay, sure, fine. But meron tayong mga bata, age from 10 years old to 15 years old, na hindi mapamarunong mag-discern kung anong tama at mali. And most often, example na lang, 2013, 71 juveniles were arrested for marijuana, crime for marijuana. 71.
So you're saying if we legalize it, you think it will increase that? It'll open the doors.
It will really open the floodway, not only door, the floodway.
Leading up to addiction, more addiction.
Leading up. Considering that the Philippines is one of the biggest grower of marijuana.
Okay, Chuck?
Well, I think that is there's fallacy in that argument because children have access to this drug because it is only available through pushers. Drug dealers are only interested in money. They are not regulated. When we legalize it, we regulate it. We make it illegal for children below 18, for example. I don't know kung ano
So
magiging kasunduan
you're saying
natin.
it'll be something like a prescribed drug. So
Exactly.
like
of course.
sleeping
Like
pills or
alcohol.
something. Like sleeping
Like
pills.
alcohol.
Well,
You do
alcohol
not
is not-
allow alcohol for minors.
Yeah, but correct. All right.
Pero ang luwag pa nga natin sa alcohol. We should be a little bit more stricter when it comes to marijuana. And that is a lot of speculation. Let us go into actual situations. The policy of the United States and Netherlands are so different. Netherlands, non-punitive. Ang Amerika, ang United States, punitive. But the same rate
Same rate.
of marijuana use
All right.
is there.
Chuck, I'll cut you. Your quick thoughts before we take a break
Okay.
on that.
I've been to Netherlands eh. Talagang pinuntahan ko yung marijuana coffee shop eh. And it's legal there. You go to
Yeah.
coffee shop, the waiter will ask you, what do you like? What do you like? Marijuana or coffee?
Okay.
Coffee, you go there. Marijuana, you go there.
Yan. And what did you
When
see?
you go out of the coffee shop, naandun sa kanto, may nagbebentahan pa rin ng marijuana eh. So it's legal and yet
Also
naandun pa
illegal
rin
pa
eh.
rin. All right.
So,
it doesn't stop.
Idala natin sa Pilipinas.
Oo.
Ang mga estudyante nakakakuha sa eskwelahan. Through pushers. Eh pag naandyan, how much more? How big is the gate?
Okay, good point. Now, we need to take a short break. Sorry to cut you, Dr. Wilkins. So we need to take a short break. Don't go away. When we come back, the result of our online poll on the issue and the final words of our guests. Please stay with us. You are watching Opposing Views. Welcome back. This is Opposing Views. I'm Rod Nepomuceno, and our guests, Chuck Manansala and Director Wilkins Villanueva. And our question for tonight, should the planting and usage of marijuana be legalized in the country? Now, let's go through naman. We've gone through the medicinal argument, and even the recreational argument, and the argument that it's being legalized now in certain parts of the world. Let's talk about its correlation to crime, because that's also an important factor. In your experience, Director Wilkins, is there a strong correlation between drug addiction and crime?
Okay. Not only experience tayo. 2009, the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency and the Bureau of Jail Management and Phenology has conducted a survey among the inmates, buong Pilipinas. And the result of the survey is quite intriguing. Out of the total population of all inmates in the Philippines 2009, 30% were there, arrested, and detained because of direct violation of the Republic Act 9165. Ibig sabihin, nag-violate sila ng batas ng droga. Nahuli.
How many percent again?
That's 30%.
30%.
So may natitira tayong 70. 50% of those remaining have violated different crimes, but under the influence of dangerous drugs.
All right.
So only out of the 100% inmates over 2009, 20% lang ang walang kinalaman sa droga.
drugs. Okay.
Now, babalikan natin ngayon yung rehabilitation, yung center-based na survey natin. Sa lahat ng residents and outpatients na tinitreat ng rehabilitation centers natin, 34% doon for the past 3 years. Eh, naandon, not because of any other substance, but marijuana.
Marijuana focus. All right.
So if 34% of the 80% na nakakulong sa Pilipinas, abay, malaki yun.
So
And it will really affect the peace and order situation of the country.
All right. Chuck, those are hard numbers. So how can you argue
Well,
that?
if you were incarcerated because you use marijuana, only the reason is because you use marijuana. When it becomes legal, that is a non-issue. It does not become a crime anymore.
Use or possession.
Of course. All right. So that decreases it immediately. Now, how many crimes are committed because of marijuana? I have no idea on how valid that study is because crime is first and foremost a socio-economic issue. If you're going to make a study, you must factor in socio-economic issues, other concerns, the psychological makeup of the person, and probably the use of certain substances. But to blame marijuana as a source of crime, I think is a hallucination.
Can I ask you something? What is the crime rate in the Netherlands? Would you be familiar?
I'm not familiar with the...
But would you know if upon legalizing marijuana, their crime rate got lower, or maybe in Uruguay?
I have no idea now. Well, Uruguay, we have to watch for what's happening in Uruguay. Well, Uruguay is a country of 3 million, madaling makita kaagad yan. But I do not know of any study that shows causation, meaning marijuana is the reason why they committed a crime.
So you're just saying they just took it. It's just a coincidence that they took marijuana?
And why is it that there are more people using marijuana? Because it's cheaper than shabu and cocaine.
Yeah.
Because, people, they do what they want. But I am not for that.
Yeah.
I am for regulation.
Let me play for a devil's advocate here. I mean, how many of all those who were incarcerated or are in rehab, or perhaps those who are jailed, how many naman committed the crime under the influence of alcohol, which is a legal substance?
We still don't have that.
You don't have
figure.
that? Oo.
Wala tayo. Doon pala tayo sa drugs eh.
Oo.
So kung 20% na nga yun nung naandun na walang kinalaman ng drugs.
Na drugs. So it's possible na alcohol naman.
Di
But
ba?
what you're saying, alcohol is less. In
Is
other words,
less.
the correlation is less when it comes to alcohol.
Maybe some of them pinagsama yung alcohol or drugs. We don't know. But what we are sure about is that 80% sa nakakulong, dangerous. It's either direct violation of the Republic Act 9165 or influensyado na pinagbabawal.
All right, we've already Chuck,
talk about
final
crime.
comment?
When you smoke methamphetamine, you become aggressive. You become uninhibited, and you become violent.
Yeah.
When you smoke marijuana, you become sedated.
Yeah, okay.
You want to sleep or you want to eat.
Or you
How
be-
can
or
they
you become
commit
happy.
crime? Or
become happy.
probably you want to party or sing.
Yeah, okay. Alright.
Gusto nyo mag-happy-happy kayo. When you're in marijuana, you're happy.
But meth makes you more aggressive.
Meth and especially
Okay.
rugby.
All right,
is
we've
really
talked
very
about
bad.
we're reaching the tail end of the show. No? We've talked about the medicinal benefits and the argument on the recreational side of marijuana, and also the possibility of legalizing it. No? We have also talked about its correlation to crime. Now let's talk about its impact on the economy. No? I mean, again, assuming that marijuana is controlled and legalized. Let's say it's legalized in the same way that we legalize alcohol. Because alcohol was a banned substance back in the 1920s, no? Before the 1920s. So eventually became legal, and the government is regulating it and taxing it. And the government is now taxing cigarettes, which is known to have ill effects to the health. Now, my question is, if we legalize it, do you think it's possible that this might have a positive impact in our economy, because it will obviously generate taxes, additional taxes, and perhaps the taxes can be used for regulation?
For me?
Yeah.
Of course, sa United States, talagang millions of dollars yung nakukuha out of taxation
marijuana,
only. But the thing is, merong mga intangibles tayo eh. For marijuana, we have it will boil down to creation of another social ills pa rin eh. Papasok pa rin tayo sa social ills, and yet it's not quantifiable. For example,
Can't quantify it in money.
how can you quantify the effect of the economical effect of marijuana sa minors na gumagamit? And ipapasok mo doon yung family.
Or a parent who's using drugs.
Papasok doon, yung community, kung saan siya naandun. And of course, sa country natin.
Yeah.
You cannot quantify the economic gains that you have in lieu with kung paano naman mangyayari dun sa impact on this social ills that it will bring to the society.
Chuck, your thoughts on
Talking about the economic value of marijuana, there are a lot of economic benefits that we can derive from marijuana as medicine, as an industrial product, as a raw material for paper, as a raw material for textiles, for nutraceuticals or food supplements. It is a very potent antioxidant. It is a very potent anti-inflammatory, a lot of things. Now, just imagine this. I appeal to everyone to look and question something. Go out and buy a pack of cigarettes. What does it say? Smoking kills. Hindi na speculative yun. Nakasulat gobyerno nagtakda. Smoking kills. But it is legal. It is allowed. What if we convert all tobacco plantations whose only known use is recreational and convert it into government-regulated marijuana plantations?
So may
Baka
medicinal,
meron tayong bagong industry. Ang gaganda ng marijuana natin sa Pilipinas. Not my words. Words ng WHO, the
Okay.
World Health Organization.
All right. We reach the tail end of our show. As I mentioned, we have a couple of minutes. Director Wilkins, your final words on this issue.
Again, I have been in drug enforcement service for more than 12 years. I've seen so many parents. I've seen so many victims of dangerous drugs. All kinds of drugs. I've been there. And once you're addicted to drugs, including marijuana, pare-pareho sila eh. Hindi mo siya pwede sabihin, ito addict ng ano ito, addict ng shabu. Ito addict ng cocaine to, pero dahil ito addict ng pare-pareho.
Sila. In the way they look, the way they act.
Once you're addicted, you're in it. And walang pwede magsabi na hindi siya addicted eh. Because taan dyan eh. We have the research, we have the survey, we have the patients we are treating for addiction. Opening the gate for them, for the future addicts, for our children, and for the children of our children, might bring negative than on the positive side.
All right.
At ang mahirap doon, tayo ang sisisihin ng mga anak natin, Dad, on your time, bakit nilegalize mo ito?
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Director Wilkins. Chuck, your parting words?
Yes, marijuana is medicine. Marijuana is safe medicine. To continue putting marijuana under Schedule 1 classification is scientifically, legally, and morally wrong. We should not deprive our nation, we should not deprive our mothers who have legitimate medical needs access to marijuana in a manner that is safe and legal. Right. Prohibition does not work. The first case of prohibition, what was it? Do not partake of the fruit of tree of knowledge. How many people were involved?
Right.
Who was the police? Ano outcome? It did not work. So we focus not on prosecution, but on regulation. Let us make marijuana a health issue, and we will work with government, we will work with the Dangerous Drugs Board and PDEA, so we can immediately start the medical research and experimentation on marijuana, or cannabis as it should be properly called, both as a pharmaceutical agent and as an herbal medicine.
All right. Thanks very much, Mr. Chuck Manansala. Or thank you to our guests. Mr. Chuck Manansala, founder of the Medical Cannabis Research Center, also a founding member of the Philippine Cannabis Compassion Society and a supporter, of course, of the Philippine Moms for Marijuana. And of course, we'd like to thank Director Wilkins Villanueva from the Preventive Education and Community Involvement Service of the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, or PDEA. Now let's see the results of our online poll. Our question, should the planting and usage of marijuana be legalized in the country? The answer, yes, 40%, and no, 60%. And that's our opposing views for tonight. Tune in again next week for another bold and engaging discussion on today's most relevant issues. I'm Rod Nepomuceno. Good night and God bless.